algebraic dual of a vector space X. And in fact, what we have defined like this, that if X be a vector space, then set of all linear functionals defined on X, we denote this X star, and this set of all linear functionals it forms a vector space under the operation addition and scalar multiplication defined as f1x plus f2x. f1 plus f2x is f1x plus f2x, and alpha times fx is alpha of fx. So, with respect to the addition and scalar multiplication, it again forms a vector space. All the properties, all the conditions of the vector space are satisfied with respect to these operations. Hence, this space will be a vector space. f1 plus f2x is f1x plus f2x, and alpha dot f means alpha into fx. Now, this space, which is a vector space, we call it as a algebraic dual space of X, called the algebraic dual of X. Now, since it is again a vector space, so we can further think of a set of all linear functionals defined on X star. So, let it be that linear function is h, psi, and so on. These are the linear functionals on X star. And again, in a similar way, we can show that this class of all linear functions defined on X star again forms a vector space. So, this is also a vector space, and we call the second algebraic dual of X, algebraic dual of X. Clear? The question arises, what is the need of considering this second dual or first dual at all? Is there any purpose of writing this thing, or just simply taking the linear function and making a vector space? Then again, linear function making vector space is no use unless they have a certain value. The relation between x and x double dash star x double dash is an important one. So, we would like to establish certain relation between x and x double star, and that will characterize the vector space X. Okay. So, our aim is to how to find the relation between x and x double star. That is the our aim. First thing.
In the space of this small x, what is small x is element of which space?
This capital X, this capital X, is it not? You are talking about this?
Small x.
This small x is an element of X. Okay. These are the points x, y, z. These are the points in this space. In fact, I have taking the same operation here. Here also I am taking the same operation. Here also I am taking the same, but it may be different, depends on this. Okay. So, we are interested in finding the relation between the original vector space X and the second dual x double star so obtained. Okay. Now, one thing is clear, that one can find an element G. One can find an element G belonging to say double star, which is linear functional on x star by choosing a fixed point x belonging to capital X. So, what is this claim is that suppose I fixed x here, this is our x and I fixed a point x here, then corresponding to this one can obtain an element g belonging to x double star. We can find a g corresponding to this x. How? Let's see how does it follow. We define, let's define g of x as g of f, sorry, g of f as g x f, because x is fixed, x is fixed, is it not? X is fixed, we are defining g of f equal to g x f, which is equal to f x. X is given, x is fixed, we are interested in finding the g. So, let us say g is an element of x double star. So, domain of g will be the elements in x star. So, f is an element in f belongs to x star, and this will be a variable one, while the x belongs to capital X, it is a fixed element. Okay. Is it clear now? We are choosing a fixed element and then we wanted to take an element, define get an element g in x double star. So, the domain of g will be x star. So, let us f be an element belonging to x star, which is a variable one, because g can take any value at any point. So, g of f, and this we are writing as g x, g suffix x f, which is f x. Is it okay? Now, we claim that this g x is linear.
So, that f belongs to x star.
F belongs to x star.
G belongs to
X double star, that we are showing, that we wanted to show.
So, how can then g f be at all times be equal to f x?
No, this is our definition. This is our definition. In fact, this will be a point. Here we are taking x, this is, and here is x double star, this like this, this is our x double star. So, if I take x here, we wanted to find the point g here, okay, related to x. So, it means g will depend on x. Clear? How to get this g? We have to define in such a way function so that it becomes, because in order to get the g in x double star, g x must be a linear functional, because x on which must be linear functional on x star.
So, here f x belongs to x star.
Huh.
But
now,
how can this z f be again equal to f?
That is why I am saying x is fixed. Okay. We wanted an element g. Okay. In f star, we do not know whether g is linear or not. Just any arbitrary function I am just taking, any g. We define the g as g f equal to f of x. This is our definition one can define. Why? Because x is given and f is a point in the x star, here all f. Okay. So, what is the domain of g? Domain of g will be the x star or lies in the x star. Clear? Is it okay?
GF, it lies in X double star.
GF is a value. GF is a value at the point f. It is simply a value, it may be scalar quantity because it is a functional. GF of x will be fx. Clear? This GF has no value unless it is given at the point x, because here it is GF, okay, but at what point x. So, you have to get the starting with the x, we do not know this part, this is not known, okay. But since we wanted the G to be in x double star, there must be a domain of G must be x star. So, dummy points are f, variable point. G will range over any arbitrary point on x star. So, we are taking G of f. Okay. Now, G of f, this will come over here.
So, G of f is again equal to fx. So, fx means it should belong to x star.
Fx will be the x star. Yeah, that will be the point we will see. Okay, let us see where does it go. Okay. Where does it go? Okay. Gxf. So, if we take this one, suppose I define this way. Basically, this is our definition. Gf equal to f of x, because f is known, x is known. Okay. Now, we claim that Gx is a linear or G is linear. So, what is to be done is G is linear means start with this alpha f1 plus beta f2, is it not? If G of this equal to alpha times G f1 plus beta times G f2, then it is okay. Then is it okay or not?
Yeah.
Now, this will be equal to
alpha into G1.
Now, this is Gx alpha f1 plus beta f2, and this by definition it will be nothing but the alpha f1 beta f2 and x. Okay. Is it clear now? So, this will be an scalar. Remember, this is f1, f2, f and what? The linear functional on x. So, f1 x, f2 x, these are the scalar. So, this will be a scalar quantity. Okay. Then this will be alpha f1 x plus beta f2 x. Is it okay?
So, which one is scalar?
This completely, this will be a scalar. Okay. And this is equal to alpha f1 x plus beta f2 x. Clear? Now, by definition, this can be written as alpha G.
And so, this scalar will belong to
x scalar though is a field in the field of this vector space.
Oh.
Scalar is a vector space is the set of vectors whose components are scalars.
Okay.
So, they are the field either real or complex. Okay. They do not belongs to a, they are the elements of the field of the vector space. So, alpha G of this we can write like this plus beta G of x f2. Is it not? So, we are getting this clear, and that is nothing but what? This shows that Gx is linear functional. Gx is a linear functional on which space? Because the elements are f1 and f2 belongs to class x star. So, on x star. Okay. So, it means the G which I have defined in this fashion basically comes out to be a point of x double star. So, this belongs to x double star. Therefore, Gx belongs to x double star. Is it not? Clear? So, what now the picture is like this, that we are having x, we are having x double star and a mapping one can define which transfer x to Gx. Is it not? So, to each x belonging to capital X, there corresponds a Gx belonging to X double star such that this happen. Okay. Corresponding to each x, there exists a Gx belonging to X double star. So we can define a mapping C from X to X double star, which carries the point X to Gx, where X is an element of X. Is it not? It means from X, element of X, we are getting directly to the element of X double star. Clear? And this mapping is called canonical. Capital X is a vector, small x is also an element of X, so it is a vector quantity. Yeah. Okay. But when you write the f of x, it becomes scalar. So, it is called canonical. This is wrong. It's canonical, a mapping of x, canonical mapping of x into X double star. Is it clear? So, this is now this mapping C so obtained is also a linear mapping. This C we claim that this C is also linear, since its domain is a vector space and the range lies in the vector space. Domain is vector space because X, and range lies in X double star, which is also a vector space. So, since domain of C is a vector space and the range of C lies in a vector space, okay, and if we take the condition of linearity alpha x plus beta by, so take any 2 point in x, capital X, x and y, find their linear combination. So, C of alpha x plus beta by, clear?
So, union
subset, RC is a subset of X double S.
after that you have written something
Vector space. This is a vector space. Okay. Clear? Now, we wanted to show that C is linear. So, take the 2 point x and y belonging to capital X and take the linear combination, the image of this under C. Okay. But it cannot go directly to X double star. So, first it will transfer to where? It will go take the help of X star, elements of the X star. So, F. Now, this by definition, this comes what? X image, because Cs goes to G of X. So, this will be equal to G of alpha x beta by F. Is it okay? Clear? And then by definition, it will be equal to F of alpha x plus beta y, which is alpha of f x plus beta of f by, and which can be written as alpha g x f plus beta g by f, and that will be equal to alpha c x f plus beta c by f. Okay, check it. Okay. So, this one. So, what this shows? This shows the C is linear. This C, which we have called the canonical mapping of this, we also use the another word, a canonical embedding. C is also called the canonical embedding. C is also called canonical embedding, canonical embedding of x into x double star. X to x double star. Clear? X to x double star. Okay. Okay. So, we have got this thing from this one, from x to x double star. We are able to introduce a mapping which transfer every point x to the point of x double star, and this mapping is a into mapping. So, range of R C lies in x double star. Okay. Now, what is the relation between R C and x double star? That is simple. If R C equal to x double star, then we call it the space to be a reflexive space, that we will come there. Okay. So, that is our purpose. Now, in this entire process, we require some definition of the isomorphism, isometric and so on, because we are dealing with the spaces. Suppose two spaces are discussed. If their metric structure is the same or they are the operations are carrying the same way, then only the points are changed. Then we consider these two spaces metrically equivalent metrics, equivalent spaces. So, we have the concept of isomorphism. Okay. So, we require the definition of isomorphism, and this definition, of course, it will vary from the structure to structure. If we take this vector space, suppose x and y are the two vector space, then we say let x and y say this be the two vector spaces, then an isomorphism, T of x to y is a bijective mapping which preserves the operations. That is the T of alpha x plus beta y. Here this is the addition for vectors and the dot is the corresponding scalar operation, scalar multiplication, and if it is equal to alpha dot T x plus beta dot T y, if this is the same as this, which preserve the bijective mapping, which preserve the operation T x plus T y equal to T x plus and alpha dot x equal to this one. Okay. Then we say it is a isomorphic 1 1 on 2. Okay.
Belongs to x and
X belongs to X, Y. Similarly, in case of this operation, similarly, if x d and x bar d bar be the two metric spaces, then an isomorphism T of a metric space x d to x delta d delta is a bijective mapping. Bijective means 1-1 onto mapping, bijective 1-1 mapping, bijective mapping, surjective and injective 1-1 onto mapping which preserves the distances. That is d bar t x t y is the same as d of x y, where x and y belongs to capital X. Okay. If it is a norm space, it means it is a vector space together with the norm. So, in case of the norm space, this condition must be satisfied, as well as the distance or the norm is preserved. Norm of x t x t y, t x minus t y is the same as norm of x minus y. So, in case of the norm space, the isomorphism is defined in a similar. Okay. Means all these operations, the algebraic structure with the operation whatever may be, if they are preserved under the mapping T, then we say T is a isomorphism mapping.
In the previous definition, x and y both belongs to x.
X and y both are the elements of x, because this T is a mapping from x to y. So, both are the element of x. Image is all in y, T x, T y, they are in y. Here also same x and y. In case of the norm space, we say it is not. So, suppose T is a mapping from norm space, then what happen is x norm to y norm dash 0, then it is a preserve the operation. Okay. The T of x plus y equal to T x plus T y, T of alpha x equal to alpha of T x, and norm of T x minus T y is the same as norm of x minus y 0. Okay, where norm is also written. Clear? Is it clear? Now, we take another definition of embeddable. If x is isomorphic, if x is isomorphic with a subspace of a vector space y, if x is isomorphic with a subspace of a vector space y, then we say that x is embeddable in y. Embeddable in y. Okay. Clear? So, in the above, since C which we define as a mapping from X to X double star is a canonical mapping from X to X double star. We also called this as canonical embedding. We also call this as a canonical embedding of X into X double star in a similar way. Okay? Canonical embedding of this. Clear? Because we are mapping C, which is a linear mapping, preserves the operations, and they get canonical embedding. This is a canonical. C we have defined earlier X to Gx, X to Gx, and this was a canonical mapping from X to, and in fact, it preserved the all the operations. We call the canonical embedding of X into X. And if the range set of C, is coinciding with X double star, then X is said to be algebraically reflexive. So, this is the important, we get it. Okay. So, we have introduced the algebraic reflexive space. Clear? It means algebraic reflexive means that a original space X is given. With the help of the duals, you are constructing a second dual of this space. Then, if the range and mapping is defined from original space to the range space to the second dual of this, a canonical embedding is defined. If the range of that mapping C coincide with the second dual, then we say the X and X double star, they are equal, is it not, and they are algebraically reflexive space.
That means we can obtain one from another.
It means their elements may be different, but so far the algebraic the properties are concerned, the metric properties are concerned, non properties are concerned, they will behave as if they are the same carbon copy of the same thing. Okay. So, they are algebraically reflexive.
That means the inverse is defined.
Inverse is something different. Inverse is if it is 1 1 on 2, inverse will be defined for it. Okay. So, this is what. Now, we come to the linear operator in a finite dimensional case. Finite dimensional space. As we have seen earlier in case of the norm space or metric space, when we define the spaces, the finite dimensional spaces are simpler than the infinite dimensional. In fact, there are many results which are true in general for a finite dimensional case, but may not be true in an infinite dimensional case. For example, the finite dimensional case, any norm, all the norms are equivalent norms, they give the same topology. Clear? In a finite dimensional case, one can also say compact set is a closed and bounded and vice versa, but in case of infinite dimensional, this is not true. So, there are so many things are there which are common to all these spaces if the space is finite dimensional. Okay. So, here also we wanted to know what is the benefit of constructing of finding the linear operator or studying the linear operator on a finite dimensional case. Can we get some results which are common to for a linear operator for any finite dimensional spaces. Okay. So, let us see first the linear operators. Can it be represented in terms of some operators always? I mean, can we represent it in terms of the matrices? Because we have seen in the last case example, when we take in the matrix A of order m cross, this is a matrix A of order m cross n, then it defines a mapping from Rn to Rm, is it not? And in fact, this is Aij is a matrix, then what we get is Aij Xij sigma j is equal to 1 to n, and that will be the point of eta I, is it not? That was the point in eta I. So, it means this operator matrix behaves as an operator from Rn to Rm, clear. So, conversely also can be proved that every linear operator on a finite dimensional space can be represented by means of a matrix, clear, and that is the aim of this discussion. We will show that any linear operator on a finite dimensional vector space, finite dimensional space can be represented by means of a matrix.
So, matrix is an operator or matrix is a mapping?
Matrix is an operator when this Rm Rn to Rm, because this Rm is a vector. What is this? They say this is the matrix A. Ax is equal to y, you write? Why?
My question is about, so we write column.
Okay, this is the matrix. Here is xi1, xi2, xin, is it not? And what you get? You are getting to be what? Eta 1, eta 2, eta m. Now, this is a m dimensional vector space.
Yes.
This is n dimensional vector and this is m cross n dimensional. Yes. So, basically it transfers this vector to this vector. So, it is an operator.
So, what is the difference between mapping and, suppose we are writing like this, C colon x to x star.
Mapping is a general word. Mapping is a general word, but when the domain and range all the vector spaces or lies in the vector space, then we say this is an operator. Either this vector space may be norm space or something, but if the range set comes out to be a either real set of real number or set of complex number or set K, which is the field of the vector space, then it is called a functional. But functional operator, they are all mappings, clear.
So, then the dot operator and plus operator.
Dot operator is a scalar quantity, so it is a functional.
Okay.
But cross product is a vector, so it becomes an operator. Clear? Whenever you get image of the vector, when you get the vector, then it is an operator. But image of the vector, if you get in scalar, it is a functional. Okay. And mapping kya? Mapping is the rule which assign every element of X to a unique element of Y. That is all. So, it is a rule. So, operator also satisfy that rule, functional also satisfy that rule. So, mapping is a general word. Clear? Is it clear? So, that way. So, now we will try to find that the representation of the operator in a finite dimensional case. So, we can every linear operator, every operator can be represented in terms of the matrix. Okay. So, every linear operator can be every linear operator on the finite dimensional vector space or finite dimensional say vector spaces can be represented by means of a matrix. Okay. This is our. So, let us see. Suppose x and y be finite dimensional vector space over the same field, field of scalar, means if x is a real vector space, and then y should also be real vector space. If x is a complex vector space, then y should also be a complex vector over the same field. And let us suppose T is an operator from x to y, be a linear operator. Linear operator. Okay. Since x and y be the finite dimensional vector spaces, let the dimension of this x and y, dimension of x is suppose n, dimension of y we suppose m, or let us be r. Okay, r, dimension of this is say r, and the basis element corresponding basis we suppose E, elements are E1, E2, En. This is the basis for x, and B, which is say B1, B2, say Br, be the basis for y. Okay, clear? And in order to get the unique things, we assume or we fix the position of the elements of this. So, we arrange the element of basis E and B in a fixed order. So, we say be the base, let E and B basis for A arranged in some fixed indefinite order. Which we keep fixed. What do you mean by this? Say E1, E2, En all the basis elements. So, someone say no, I take E2 as a first element, E1 is the second element, or E5 as the first element and E7 is the second, like that way. So, let him decide first. First he should, because basis elements, n elements we have to pick up, those are the basis elements, then arrange it in some definite order, and throughout our calculation in this section we retain this order as it is. Okay. Similarly, B1, B2, Bn also we retain the same order. Okay. So, that there will not be uniqueness will not be a problem. Okay. Then since these are the basis elements, so any element x belongs to capital X will be represented uniquely in terms of basis element. So, let x belongs to capital X, okay, which has a unique representation in terms of the basis as x is xi1 e1, xi2 e2, xin en. Let it be equation 1. Okay. Clear? Now, since T is linear, and T is a mapping from x to y, so it will transfer the image T x. It will transfer the image T x to a element y in capital Y, and that will be equal to T of sigma xi I e I is 1 to n, but because of the linearity this will give the sigma I equal to 1 to n xi I T of e I, is it not? I is 1 to, is it okay or not? I is 1 to n like this T I. Okay. Let it be equation 2. Okay. Now, since this T which we have defined, T x is coming as a summation of xi eta I, xi I is unknown, E1, E2 and are known. It means that T x or T can be obtained if we know the T e I, is it not? If T e I are known, then T can be represented in English. So, we can say T is uniquely determined, T is uniquely determined if the image is by I, which is equal to T E I of the n basis vectors that is E1, E2, En are prescribed. Is it not? If these vectors are known, then one can obtain the T uniquely. Okay. Now, since by n T of E I, they by n this belongs to capital Y, is it not? Y is equal to T x and this T I E I, which is by I, is also an element of Y. The basis element of Y is B 1, B 2, B j, B r. So, this can be expressed in terms of the basis element. So, we can write by in the form of sigma eta j B j and j is 1 to r, and similarly y I or T E I sigma j equal to 1 to r. Now, here B j I am using double notation suffix as j I. Though normally what happen is that I j should be written, is it not? But here I am writing this thing j I, so that in the final things it will be a proper way form, because here writing this will not affect, because this is simply an scalar quantity and T E I is an element of Y. So, it can be expressed in terms of the basis element, that is all. So, we do not have any problem. So, let us be 3. Okay. Now, start with Y. Consider Y, which is equal to sigma eta j B j, j is 1 to r. Clear? But this Y is also the same as this from 1. This is also the same as sigma I is 1 to n x I T of E I. Is it? So, we get this also. Substitute the value T I from 3. So, what we get is sigma I equal to 1 to n x I summation j equal to 1 to r tau of j I B j. Substitute this thing. Okay. This can be written as sigma j equal to 1 to r within brackets sigma I equal to 1 to n tau of j I x I into B j. Okay. Is it clear now? This one. Just I have interchanged this all because they are finite in number. So, there are no problem, and this you can write it here. Now, if we look this thing and this thing, B 1, B 2, B n, B r, these are the basis element linearly independent vectors. So, linear combination of these two are identical, it means the corresponding coefficient must be the same. So, this implies that B j eta j equal to sigma I equal to 1 to n tau of j I x I. Is it okay? Let it be 4. Is it okay? So, we conclude that the image y, which is T x, which is equal to sigma eta j b j of x, which is sigma x I e I is 1 to n, can be obtained from the 4. If you want to find the image of this, you require eta j, and eta j can be computed from with the help of 4. Okay? And not only this, this also gives further 4 suggest a matrix T of E B, whose elements are tau of j I, with j varies from what? 1 to R. So, R cross n. Okay? It means an operator, linear operator, can be represented by means of the matrix, finite matrix of order R cross n. Okay? So, this proves that. Clear? So, that way, is it okay or not? Clear? So, we can have this representation unique and this respect to the basis of this. Okay. Okay. Now, if we look this thing again further, suppose, so operator T can be represented by means of a matrix finite, okay, by means of the matrix. In fact, column, if you start with the column matrix etc., we can get that, and we get, in fact, we can say y bar is equal to T of E B x bar, where y bar and E bar is, where y bar is this, what is that, eta 1 eta 2, is it not, eta 1 eta 2 eta r, x bar is x I 1 x I 2 x I n, and this T of E B we can write it as the T 1 T 2 T S 3, okay, that we can go. So, this is nothing. Okay. Now, let us come to another result, which I am not going to in detail, is that linear functional of this in case of the linear functional on x, when the dimension of this x is say n, and the basis elements and E 1, E 2, E n be the basis elements. So, we can write it f of x equal to f of sigma x I e I is 1 to n, and that can be written as sigma I is 1 to n x I f of e I, and that will be equal to I equal to 1 to n x I alpha I, where alpha I is f of e I. It means, if we know the alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha n, then one can find out the f. Okay. So, f can be obtained there. So, f is uniquely determined by its value determined by its values, uniquely determined by its values alpha I at the n basis elements. Similarly, conversely, if n basis elements are given, if n scalars are given, that is 1 0 0 0 0 1 0 0 and so on 0 0 1, then one can find the n functional like this: f I E j as a canonical delta I j, which is 1 when I is equal to j, otherwise 0, and this functional f 1 f 2 f n, this is called the dual basis of, this is called the dual basis of the basis E 1 E 2. Okay. So, that is all. I will explain this part next in the next class. Thank you. Clear?